Thank you for joining us today on the Kristen and Rebecca, just kidding, the Rabell Realty Group podcast with Kristen and Rebecca. I'm Kristen Rabell.
And I'm Rebecca Johnson.
And watch out because she might flash you today.
Yes, we're learning lots of things today.
Like don't wear green.
That you cannot wear green if you're on a green screen because you will be see-through. Thank you, Elio, for the sweater so that I did not appear as a floating head. We are further proof that you can tell us at least once and you'll have to tell us again.
Or at least her.
Yes, at least me. I actually brought a second shirt, but then I forgot it at the office, so you know. Oh goodness! But yeah, so I'm dressed down today. I'm in a casual
She was
mood.
dressed up, but you know she's just gonna be casual today. Casual Monday. And we have a very special guest that'll come on a little later, John Darr from Darr Schackow Insurance, and we're going to talk about some pretty interesting things in insurance these days. A lot of questions you all might have as buyers, sellers, even other realtors. So hopefully we'll hit all of those points today. Right now, though, we're going into the Monday market moment. All right, hit us up, Rebecca.
All right, so we're going to start Monday like we start every Monday and talk about what's going on in the Gainesville real estate market. So far in Gainesville this month, January 2021, we have 133 new listings that are currently on the market. That means they've come on since the 1st of January. 229 homes have gone under contract or have been sold since January 1st of this year. And 114 have closed successfully, meaning they were under contract back in 2020 and are finally closing this year.
In January, right?
That's right. So as you can see, we are still in need of listings. More are going under contract than are what are coming on the market.
And again, we go through this every time. These pended sales were pended in January, not pending in December? They were? Okay.
A lot of them were.
A lot. Okay, so this is not just January pended.
Oh, these went pending. Yes, you're right. I'm sorry.
January. Yes. So these all were pended in January. So I mean, that's not quite twice as many as active, but
18 days, 229 homes.
Mm-hmm. So we need more listings. So if you're looking to list your home, call us at Rabell Realty Group. 352-559-8821. All right.
Glad you know the number.
Right. So let's bring on our special guest because we've got a packed day today talking about insurance. John Darr of Darr Schackow Insurance Agency. John, you've been around Gainesville for how long now?
I was born here and raised here, so 51 years.
Oh, you aged yourself. That's a good long time in Alachua County.
Like
you are a true ACR.
Only 51, yep.
And you got into real estate, or insurance, I should say, homeowners insurance.
In 93.
In 93.
So what is that, 28 years? I'm on my 28th year, which is amazing.
You made it that far, so.
Yes.
Well, we figured he's good enough to come and talk about insurance here. Just kidding.
Yes.
Most of you all know, John Darr, you're kind of like the face of Gainesville Insurance, Alachua County Insurance, especially when it comes to homeowners.
I don't know how that happened because I would love to tell everybody that I planned it that way, but it wasn't my plan for sure. I want to thank you for having me on the show because
thank you for
it's
coming
awesome.
on here.
I love what you guys do, and you guys do such a wonderful job. So I wanted to thank you for having me first of all.
Well, thank you. Well, one huge reason we wanted you on here is because it really started about 6 months ago when you're really hearing that insurance companies are not insuring roofs if they have sometimes 10, sometimes 15 years of life left, and that has caused a little, I wanted to say, almost massive problems in the real estate industry. I mean, there's other reasonings, plumbing, and we can sort of get into that later, electrical issues, but really the biggest one right now is the roofing problems. And so we really want to talk to you because we have realtors who can't close, sellers who can't close, buyers who can't buy, all because mainly this roofing issue.
Yeah.
So we really wanted to know the how, why, who, what, when, where, all the questions we can, and so that we can all work together and, getting the information out there.
Get to the finish line.
Right. So we know what to do when the time comes up. We know what to talk about before we even get in front of them. We know how to speak about it to especially buyers and sellers. And as realtors, work with each other when this comes up.
Sure.
So you started seeing this how long ago?
Yeah, it probably started a couple years ago at some level, and in the past 6 months, it's been terrible. 2020 has been a year where there were 22 extreme weather events that did $1 billion worth of damage at each one of those events.
So while all of us were worried about COVID and protests
Yes.
and other major issues, the political issues and everything, here we are with 22 storms that we remember maybe 4 of them,
Right.
and there were 22. And this is Florida exclusive.
Correct.
Right.
So it was a terrible year. 2020 was just
Yes, I think we all can forget that year.
a terrible year from the insurance standpoint. So there's something called assignment of benefits, which has been terrible for the industry as a whole in the past few years, and they enacted some legislation last year that did help, but I think they need to continue to work on improving that situation, because it's causing the insurance companies to run at on average 131% loss ratio, which basically means for every dollar they take in premium, they're paying out $1.31.
And you just can't keep up with that.
And they can't keep up. So
Right.
they have
Makes
really
no
no
sense.
choice other than to raise rates. And the state doesn't allow them to raise rates to whatever they want. So they have to go to the state and they have to file for a rate increase. And sometimes the state says, no, we're not going to let you raise your rates to whatever you want to raise them to. So then what they do is they say, okay, we can tighten underwriting. We only want the brand new houses that don't have any issues, that don't have trees hanging over the roof or cracked sidewalks or mold or any of that kind of stuff. So they tighten the underwriting, which makes it more difficult to find insurance. And so this combination of those things has really affected in the past 6 months.
So it's getting more expensive, and although the state is trying to, in some ways, help the homeowner by not letting these rate increases, it's still hurting them because now it's become stricter or more strict to continue with insurance or get new insurance.
That's right.
Right.
It's this combination of the two that the insurance companies are just, we've had a lot of the insurance companies actually years ago have left the state, names like State Farm and some of these other names have.
And we kind of felt that and remembered that, as being in real estate for as many years as we've been in, and we sort of dealt with that, but this
Yeah.
is sort of a new blow.
It's a new blow.
And there are a couple of other companies that are leaving now as well,
Yeah, they're right now.
or at least threatening
I
to
think,
leave.
yeah, I think one of the statistics that I wanted to mention today was that 55 of the 105 rate requests were 10% or more. So if the carriers can't get these rate requests approved, then they really have no choice but then to pull out of Florida. And we don't want that, because we want competition. Competition brings down premiums. It makes it easier for realtors to get houses sold and closed and the whole thing.
So there's not much we can do about Mother Nature, right? I mean,
Not that I know of.
What are some other things that we can do or be aware of?
So if you're a realtor out there listening, I would say one of the biggest things that you want to try to do is kind of attack this early. Have your buyer have a conversation with an agent. Have them call an independent agent early on in the process and talk about whatever house that you have a contract on or you like. Have a conversation with that agent and say, okay, what are the issues going to be when I go to insure this particular house? Because it's going to help when you get closer to closing, not have any surprises. You're not going to go to closing and go, oh my gosh, we need a new roof in 5 days. Well, that's not going to happen.
It's not gonna happen, right.
So
But insurance companies can work with current homeowners and soon-to-be homeowners with getting the new roof. So they might be able to, if they know a new roof's going on, insure it, correct? Insure it, and then you still have to prove that the roof's going on.
correct. Yeah,
The
there
roofers are really far behind. They're always far behind. There's just not enough roofers, too much roofs out there.
Absolutely.
That need, and obviously with this, it's causing even more roofs to be replaced.
And a lot of roofs are perfectly good roofs. They don't necessarily need to be replaced.
But insurance-wise,
But for
they're
the insurance
forced.
company, right. So one of the things that we talk about is if the roof is a newer roof, less than 10 years, some carriers have come out and said, no, we won't write a roof that's 5 years old,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
what we've heard.
insane. But what happens is that they're not allowed to charge more in premium, but if you've got, we represent 30 different homeowners insurance carriers, well, it restricts the number of carriers that will actually quote your home to maybe 3 or 4 or 0. So it doesn't necessarily make the rate go up, but if you have a new roof, now I can go to all 20 carriers or all 30 carriers and go, okay, give me a price or give me a quote from all these different carriers, and you'll see lower rates. So that's, I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's sort of how it works. It's not that the older roof means more premium, it just means that you've got less choices.
So when they say, I can't get insurance, it really can be possible that they can't get insurance. It used to be, there's so many, but the rates are too high for me to work in what I can afford.
Sure.
And, if I'm pretending I'm a home buyer right now,
Yep.
what I can afford for my monthly, payments that I have to make, the age of this roof, or the issue with the plumbing or the electrical, is causing me not to be able to afford the premium,
Right.
the monthly amount. So, but now it's even more so where it's reduced the amount of insurance companies that will even
They'll even give you a quote.
Even try to quote
They'll
you.
even, right.
Right.
And those carriers that will still give you quotes are sometimes those that have higher rates. And they're wanting new business, but they don't, they're not as competitive as some of the other carriers out there that will write just the new roofs. So it, it just depends on, what the market is available. So that's why one of the things that I try to tell realtors is, look, early on, much earlier than in years past, have a conversation with an agent, call an agent, and talk about what are the things that we would need to fix to make it eligible. Plumbing is a big deal. Are there galvanized aluminum plumbing?
Now, what years would that galvanized aluminum have been from? Like earlier than the 70s or also after the 70s?
I think it was in the 70s. I'm not real sure when they stopped using Galvalume, but
I would say we found that 80s changed a little bit, so it's not. So if your house is built in 70s or even earlier, you potentially have that unless it's been completely repiped.
correct.
And then the 90s in Gainesville had that flex, the
Polybutylene.
polybutylene, right? So if your house was built in the 90s,
Yep.
there's certain neighborhoods that realtors who've been around long enough and insurance agents
Yep.
know more than likely you're going to be replacing these pipes because you will not get insurance. Now, here's
Exactly.
what I want to explain to anybody watching who doesn't really understand real estate and insurance. You can get insurance on the house, but not on the plumbing.
Right.
So then,
There'll be
and
exclusions
the
for
number
water.
one reason why you want insurance is probably for water
Yeah.
issues, which come from plumbing.
Yep.
So if you have insurance, but it's excluded your piping, then the most expensive repair is going to come from some sort of water damage,
Yep.
and it's not covered.
You start replacing flooring and baseboards and all that kind of stuff, it can get real expensive real fast.
Right, just from one tiny little leak
Yes.
that you can't see
Yes.
because of that polybutylene or the other piping that we're talking about. Now, there's a new piping that's coming out. When do we
I know
figure
nothing
out how
about.
horrible, or how it
Don't
affects?
tell him.
Well, how long did they figure out with the polybutylene from the 90s? Was it like 5 years after using them?
I don't
Do you
know.
even have that?
I'm not sure. All I
question
know
we
is I
didn't talk
get
about
underwriting
before.
rules where they say, hey, we don't want to write this. And we go, okay.
I mean, I know we started in 06 and probably didn't really start getting that until,
I thought it was more like 2010.
yeah, I was going to
maybe.
say a couple
Mm-hmm.
years
So I
in,
think it
all of a
takes them
sudden.
10 years, 10, 15 years to be this isn't very good.
Right.
A lot of times with like going back to galvanized aluminum plumbing, they have a leak and there's nothing to connect the new pipe to because the rest of the pipe is rusting.
Right.
So insurance is meant to fix the leak, but it's not meant to repipe your house. So a lot of people don't understand. They go,
Oh,
well,
wow, yeah.
that's a maintenance issue. That's not an insurance issue. So yeah, we'll pay to fix the broken part, but that might be $50. You have to go and repipe the whole house, which is not $50.
Right, and it's not just piping, it's also patching all the walls.
Patching the walls,
Yeah,
and sometimes they got to
repainting.
go through the roof.
Yeah.
They can't go through the slab. It's So again,
Quite a bit.
I think if realtors and whether you're a home buyer or a realtor or whatever, just call an agent early on and start, talking through some of the issues, because a lot of times people don't realize what is an insurance issue is not something they even think about.
Right. So let's go ahead and take a break right now, and we'll come back and talk a little bit more about these insurance issues that we're finding and what we can do as realtors, buyers, and sellers. So thank you, and hope to see you back on the other side.
For every budget and lifestyle. Hale Plantation comprises of nearly 13 miles of roads and walking trails, the Village Center, Public Market Center, shopping, dining, healthcare facilities, and more. The Hale Plantation Golf and Country Club features an 18-hole Gary Player golf course, a state-of-the-art tennis court, pools, recreation center, as well as venues for weddings and events. The Saturday Farmers Market brings live music, local produce, and handmade goods. Depending on your location in Hale, the community is zoned for A-rated Wiles and Childs Elementary Schools, Kanapa Hall Middle School, and Buchholz High School. Please visit buysellrebell.com to search for your new home in Hale.
Welcome back again to the Rabell Realty Group podcast with Kristen and Rebecca, and this week we have John Darr of Darr Schackow Insurance. So we're talking about the insurance issues we are finding today in the market, and how we can discuss them and talk about them so we can be in front of them rather than falling behind, skipping behind. So we talked about mainly the weather of Florida. Mother Nature just absolutely loves Florida and loves to wreak havoc on it. And 2020 was a horrible year with the 22 extreme weather. Again, we were focused on everything else, but weather was really yet another reason why 2020 is done and gone, and we never want to see it again. So is there something else that was happening also?
Yeah, I mentioned it briefly. There's something called assignment of benefits, or the legal environment in Florida is very tough for most of these insurance companies. One of the statistics that I wanted to share today was from 2013 to 2016, there was a single attorney that filed almost 50,000 assignment of benefit lawsuits. In 2017, there were 129,000 assignment of benefit related lawsuits in Florida. So there was an 829% increase since 2007.
Wow.
So we are in a very litigious state, and that can be good. I told Kristen, I said I have a lot of attorney friends, and attorneys are important. They're an
We don't want to downtrod the attorneys. We don't want to downtrod the realtors.
Yeah,
right. It's
exactly.
not right, but it is.
But it's
does have to do
creating
with legal.
this issue where the state of Florida came out and said that when there is a claim that has an attorney involved, the average claim payout was about $40,000. Whereas if there wasn't an attorney, it was a claim of under $15,000. Now, I don't know
for the insurance companies when there's not an attorney involved.
And the other side of that argument is maybe the insurance company isn't paying what they should pay.
Right.
So I don't want anybody to feel bad about the insurance companies. They'll be okay. But part of the issue that is combining with the weather piece of all these is this assignment of benefits. One example that I give a lot of people was a friend of mine, not our agency, but a friend of mine, had a water claim where the insurance company came in and settled and basically said, look, we're going to pay you $20,000 to replace your floors and the walls and fix everything and get it back to the way it was. Well, after that was all sort of talked about, an attorney came in and said, no, they need to pay you more. And so they went to the lawsuit, they went to mediation and all this kind of stuff, and they came back that the insurance company should have spent $22,000 instead of $20,000. So the homeowner got an extra $2,000. The attorney for that, when that happens, the attorney then wins all of their legal fees paid by the insurance company,
Right.
which in this case was about $75,000. Then there's something called a fee multiplier, which the judge awarded the attorney, and it's 10 times his legal fees. So the attorney in a $22,000 claim walked away with $750,000 in legal fees. It's legal, that is our environment, and I'm not saying anything's wrong with it, but that goes back to why are these companies raising rates? Why are these insurance companies doing what they're doing right now? Well, that's an example of, they've paid out $770,000 on a water leak claim where, floors were damaged and that sort of thing. So
The homeowner isn't really winning. They won $2,000 more.
the homeowner,
They could have been fine with the $20,000, and they won $2,000 more.
correct.
But their attorney walked away with some good cash.
A lot of money. And that's what's driving up that loss ratio of 131%.
Now, you might not know this answer, and this is just one of those wow moments, but I can understand Florida and their storms. We are a coastal.
We're in the hurricane zone.
Right,
Yep.
exactly. So I get that. But why is it so much more litigious here? Why is this happening here more often than anywhere else?
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
I think attorneys like to live in Florida if they're going to, practice and do business in Florida.
Because every story starts off with
Right, Florida man.
Right. Florida man.
It should start off
Right.
with Florida attorney.
Florida
Right.
attorney.
Again,
Right.
we're not disparaging attorneys, but it is a very interesting question or
It
thought
is,
to have.
yeah, it is
right?
the environment right now, and it's again, it goes back to start working with an agent early on and try to get them to understand and help whatever your situation is, because it's a very tough environment for, all we want to do is sell insurance. All you guys want to
Right.
do is sell
Sell real
houses.
estate, right.
That's the way it is, but right
But this
now
complicates a little few things right here, right?
yes, it
Now we
makes our
have a
job
realtor who, came to us about a week ago saying, I can't get this closed. The insurance company is saying that the roof only has 15 years. It's a 30-year shingle, which we know in Florida doesn't always mean 30 years, and that's architectural shingle, but it has to be replaced. The seller, who doesn't really know about what's going on, does not want to replace it, and he thinks you can certainly get insurance because he has insurance, but they can't get insurance. There are no carriers. Actually, she's called 3 and 4 companies around, which for the most part, a lot of you have the same companies you can go to. I mean,
Right.
some have more
Sure.
than others.
Sure.
So that's, this is where this really starts, is now this person can't buy the house. The seller is going to have the same issue with the next buyer coming in.
Sure.
So this is why we're having this conversation, so that we can talk with our sellers. I think it's almost more important to speak to the sellers up front than to the buyers. I actually had one myself. It was a flat roof. There's already issues with
Yep.
flat roofs. There is actually a couple of other issues that we talked, plumbing, electrical, things like that. But the insurance company refused to insure the house simply because of the roof. They could look past the other two, and the sellers were okay with that. But their company actually dropped them when they got a 4-point. We haven't talked about a 4-point yet. It's kind of in what we can do, what you can do as a seller, but got a 4-point so that we could give it to the buyer. And he was dropped, and then the buyer couldn't get insurance. So that's what we're seeing right now in real estate.
Yes.
And if you can't buy and sell properties, you can't be the realtor for that. You can't insure properties. Those industries are dead.
Exactly. And there are more and more people moving here, as you guys know. And
Yes, we talk about this every week. Now, a lot of them
Yeah.
are coming up from Miami, but I did just read an article of how many New Yorkers are coming down to Florida. And they're not Gainesville specific, but this issue is Florida specific.
correct.
And so
It
we have
is.
to be very hyper aware of this.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you have, in our conversation before, talking about a 4-point. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, 4-point basically is done by an inspector that goes and looks at the 4 points, roof, wiring, heating, and plumbing, and gives a quick summary of the state or the condition of those 4 things in a house. And it will help the insurance company decide if they want to quote it or write it. So if you can get a 4-point, it's a standardized format, and I'd highly recommend people, especially houses that are a little older, 15, 20 years older, get a 4-point and take it to their agent and show their agent. I think typically a 4-point.
A lot of times your
costs
agent,
around
and by
$100.
agent, they mean, you mean
Insurance agent, sorry,
The
yes.
insurance agent is going to request one. And
Correct.
so this is where we, the realtors, take part in this. So we're helping you get your inspection. So the general inspection, the WD inspection, that general inspector will often ask you, without us around, would you like a 4-point?
Mm-hmm.
Do you suggest saying yes every time, or what year?
I would say if
This is an extra cost.
yeah, I think it's typically $125
$50 to $150,
somewhere in that
depending,
range.
right.
I would say if the house is 15 years old or older, I would say
Yes.
get a 4-point.
Right. Because that can save you anywhere from, do you have the numbers? I know it's all based off of
I think it
size and
goes
house
back
and
to
age.
I think it goes back to instead of 3 carriers out of the 30, you may have 10 carriers that offer you a quote. So it just widens the menu, so to speak, of carriers.
If they can
that'll
see
do.
these 4. So don't send the entire report. Send this 4 points. So what we usually say is 15 to 20 years
And up.
and up. That's what we say. But if they're asking you, you don't know, tell them no for now until you get more information from your insurance company. They will already have taken those pictures. All they have to do is take them and put them in sort of a pile together, and then write up this document.
Yeah.
This 1 to 2 page document, right? And so that's where they charge you. But they've already taken those photos.
Yeah.
Basically because they found that they were having to go back to the house to take these photos that they could have taken the first time.
Sure.
So there's also something called the wind mitigation inspection, which again, that inspector will say, would you like a wind mitigation inspection? So again, it's always, if you don't know and haven't talked to an agent yet, say, well, I don't know yet. They're already going to get the pictures. Tell them, get the pictures, and then I'll hire you. Because again, it's a form,
Correct.
right, that they have to fill out.
It's a separate form. Wind
Wanna
mitigation.
explain what that is?
Yeah, wind mitigation is a separate inspection done by a licensed inspector. It has to have pictures, and it talks about, it inspects whether the roof has hurricane clips and some of those things, because there is significant discounts if the house is older than 2001 and the roof is newer than 2001. You should always get a wind mitigation.
Because that can save you.
So if you're listing a house and the seller has a wind mitigation inspection, man, if you can get a copy of that, it will help if you're on the buyer side, it will help your buyer for sure.
But again, if it's a 2010 house with a 2010, they already know
You don't need
that's
a wind
already approved.
mitigation.
If it's older than 2001, but the roof is newer.
Is newer than 2001 because we're going on what was it 20
So
years
again,
now.
if it's 2001 built,
I already had that deja vu moment where I was like, oh, 20 years ago, the 90s, yeah. No.
no.
Yeah. And then I started thinking Longleaf is starting to qualify in these
Yeah.
Yeah.
15 to 20
So
year
I'm
old
gonna
houses.
I'm gonna dumb
Yes.
it down, right?
Yes.
So just simply 2000, built in 2000, but the roof was put on a new roof for
New
whatever
shingles.
reason, new shingles, 2010.
That's a
100%.
prime candidate for getting a wind mitigation.
I mean, you're more than likely not going to do it 10 years later, at least not at that time.
Right.
Usually you're seeing, if the house is about 17 to 20 years old or more, and if you don't have a new roof on there, you're having that conversation. But again, this whole conversation we're talking about now is causing us to go, okay, wait, if you have a 15-year-old roof, you need this conversation. Even if you have 5 to 10 years of life left.
Right, if the
you
house is
still
30
have
years
to.
old and you did a roof 15 years ago, you still should get a wind mitigation inspection. The easiest thing is to call an agent and say, hey, here's the house. Would it make sense for me to get a wind mit? The agent will know right away whether it's worth doing or not.
Just by the age.
Just
and
by the
if
age
they
and-
know how old the
Yeah, and a lot of
the
times
roof
you
is.
can look up and see on the permit
permitting.
on the
Super easy to find as
Yeah.
long as there's a permit on it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's true. But yeah, and they'll be able to tell you, hey, get a wind mitt. It's $125 again, and it will save you. a
And
lot.
again, 125 if it's separate.
Correct.
If you're getting an inspection on the house already,
Sometimes
it's-
they combine them,
It's a
and
little less,
cheaper,
right?
yeah.
I mean, it adds to your full inspection amount, but it's only like 50 to 75 more rather than the 125. And that's not a
Correct.
huge hit. 125 to save you money.
Yeah,
So
you're
what's the
making a
savings on
$500,000. What's the average median house in Gainesville? 250.
It's
Yeah,
290 now.
270,
Remember, we
right?
were looking
Yeah.
Yeah, if
right
you're
now because of this crazy market. 290.
It's most people's biggest asset. So if they're
Right.
getting ready to, you're getting ready to buy what is probably your biggest asset, spend $250 to see what it is you're buying, get information about the house. It will save you headaches in the long run.
Right. So we'll circle back around to this, but we have a question up here. What types of things are insurance issues that you wouldn't think are?
Good question. So cracked sidewalks and driveways,
Right.
some of the
Trip
things,
hazards.
trip hazards, yep.
Okay.
So if you're looking at a house and you see the, concrete's lifted or cracking, could be an issue.
That's the difference between hairline cracks, right?
Right.
That are normal settlement for concrete.
We're talking about the
crack.
the roof
Lift.
or the tree that has those roots that has lifted that sidewalk slightly more to become a trip hazard.
Yep.
I just want to make sure we're clear because I don't
Yes.
want to. I don't want a million phone calls about hairline cracks because
Right,
concrete
hairline
has settled.
cracks, right.
Hairline
So
cracks. not
when
an
does the
issue.
insurance company know what that is? When, that's there.
So they'll do an inspection. So
when do they do the inspection?
after the closing.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
So
you
they
can
can-
go buy this house and everything seems to be great and the insurance company's gonna come out and do an inspection and then you're gonna get the letter that says, hey, you've got, either you're being canceled or you've got these 2 or 3 issues that you need to address or you're going to be canceled. So absolutely upfront.
Now, how are those owners not canceled? How often does the insurance company come back after you have your insurance?
I think this goes back to working with the agent and having the agent have some clout with the carriers that we represent. Because if you have, there's some carriers that we have thousands of policies placed with that carrier. If I call that company up and my agency has thousands of clients with that carrier, and I say, hey, they're going to get this fixed, or whatever the issue is, it sometimes will help. Not every time. I can't fix every issue, but the more you work with the carrier,
There's a relationship. That's
it's a
been built.
relation. Yes, for sure.
I only say that because I'm going to be candid. I'm always candid and say that causes fear for me as for my realtors who are out there working. And if the seller and a buyer knows this, then that crack, that trip hazard, becomes a deal breaker because the seller's unwilling to fix it because they have insurance, they've lived there, nobody's tripped over it, all is good and nothing's happened, and now the buyer's going, no, that's a trip hazard. I'm going to get insurance, and they could very well drop me. So
For sure.
we have to think about that and how we work around that. So again, having the conversations with sellers up front, what buyers might know, and it's all based on what a buyer's going to know. And here we are giving it out to you, so you know.
You are smarter today because of this, because of watching this podcast.
Yes, you will all become smarter if you watch this podcast, especially with John Darr.
Yeah. Oh.
So let's circle back around.
Yeah.
What and I think we'll answer ourselves right here. Realtors can do, talk to our sellers and our buyers up front and let them know what's going on. What can a seller do?
A seller, same thing. A seller can, a seller may have owned the house for 20 years and been with the same carrier for 20 years and pay their bill every year, and they don't even know what's going on because they haven't had to deal with trying to find home insurance or, whatever. So when you're a realtor for a seller, I would have questions for these 4 points: roof, wiring, heating, plumbing. Go to the seller and say, hey, how old is your plumbing? What kind of plumbing is it? This could be an issue. When we go to sell your house, this could be an issue for the buyer. So let's address it early on and let's talk about what can we do to make this an easier, house to buy. Your job is to try to sell their house.
Right.
So if you have a conversation, whether it be wiring, maybe the wiring's the old knob and tube wiring with cloth, there's still a lot of that stuff out there. The seller is going, well, it works.
I've got
everything's-
insurance.
I've got insurance. Why can't this new person get insurance?
Do you suggest them to do a 4-point and have one on?
Even if they don't do a 4-point, I would at least have a conversation. The realtors that are watch this podcast are smarter than the average realtor. You guys are going to know, hey, we need to have a conversation about this wiring because it's going to be a problem. Go talk to an electrician and see what, it may be a $500 fix, okay? But if you can sell your house and get what you think it's worth, it's well worth spending $500 to upgrade the wiring, put a new panel box, my electrician friends are probably going to go, John, you can't fix anything for $500, but whatever. So, those are the kind of things that, they're probably not thinking about, but a good real estate agent is going to come in there and have that candid conversation with them and say, hey, these things could be an issue. Again, those 4 points. Mold is one that we see every once in a while. And it's not mold in the house, it's mold on the outside of the house. Because we have a lot of trees.
Okay.
It does, the sun doesn't evaporate the mold or whatever. So a lot of times people buy a house and they don't even think it's a big deal to have mold. Well, the insurance companies look at that as pride of ownership. And they want to insure houses that have owners with a pride of ownership situation.
So is this mold just like that green mold
Stuff
that
on the
grows?
outside.
So it's really just power
Pressure
washing.
power wash it.
Luckily, we get all our listings power washed. No, I'm just kidding. So
I mean-
We
I
do
have
try.
a question.
It's really
Yeah.
great.
How
actually.
do you explain to a seller, the roof is always the hot topic
Yeah.
one because they
Sure.
pay
This is the
so
bigger
much
one.
more for architectural shingles that are 30 years old. I mean, I've had to argue this point numerous times where I'm like, well, they sold you a 30-year shingle, but in Florida we don't recognize them as a 30-year shingle. In Florida they're a 20-year shingle.
Right.
So you could have bought the one that was $1,000 less, but you got this really pretty roof. I mean, do we just tell sellers, get the cheap roof because it's only going to last for 10 years?
You're gonna have to replace it every 5 years anyway. No.
I mean, are we going to get to that point? Because roofers, y'all are going to have to start negotiating a little better.
Yeah. You know, I
That's what we're
don't.
teaching you right here.
Yeah, basically, we're telling you when we call, we're going to need half the price because the roof only lasts half as long now.
Dang, I'm getting a roof on today. I should have renegotiated that.
Call them, it's not too late. They're halfway on. Be like, look, we got to re-talk about this.
You know, I don't know. I don't know that this is a long-term permanent thing. I'm optimistic that the industry can kind of sort itself out, and we have some years where that we don't have these major losses, and it sort of, you know, evens itself out and fixes itself. But I don't know. I mean, each homeowner is going to have to decide what kind of roof that they have. There are carriers that will insure architectural shingles longer than they will insure
there you
composition
go.
shingles. So I'm dealing with one right now that has a 20-year-old roof, and the insurance carrier, one of the questions for one of the carriers is it an architectural shingled roof? If it is, we'll do it. If it's just a regular composition shingled roof, it's not eligible. We won't write it. We won't even quote it. So there is.
So
you
it
know,
might be better
Y'all
to
insurance
do that.
people are coming up the works for real estate. Here
Absolutely.
we were worried about interest rates rising and making that a problem.
It's the-
We know where the slowdown will come from. It will be the insurance
Yeah.
agents. You can find John Darr at, where's your address again?
Yes, it is definitely. Yeah, I mean, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to some of the things the insurance companies do, and you know, the logic they come up with. And I've given up 28 years ago trying to figure out and apply logic to some of this. I think it's just you got to sort of know the rules, and the more you know, the more money you're
Puts
going
up
to make.
the
I know.
address.
Thank you for putting his
Thanks,
contact in
Elia.
there.
As I go to the
Appreciate it.
office.
Yeah, man.
Will you put up the slide
Appreciate
with
it.
who to contact to help? Because I think we can also get into that. How can we help as insurance or as realtors, as, again, homeowners? Hopefully it can be found.
Yeah, it all goes back to your
I
politician.
think
It's
the next
really
one, Elio.
all your politician's fault. So
There you go. Always the politicians'
there
fault.
you
So
go.
now we won't save them.
Yeah,
We'll
no,
help out the
exactly.
insurance, the attorneys, the realtors, not the politicians.
call your government, call your senator.
Go back to that slide.
Is it up there?
It's up there.
Oh, there it is. Look at the
So-
wrong one.
Yeah, if you know, feel free to let your politician know, here's what's going on in the industry. I know the insurance industry itself is lobbying for some of these changes.
And I know
So it's
the
a hot
National
topic.
Association of Realtors are helping the Florida Association of Realtors to lobby for this also.
They're
And then-
working together
And then
on
our
this.
local associations are as well. Now, what do we say when there's a petition, and I guess we just sign the petition, so it's sort of wording that's already written for us, if we don't know that wording.
Yep.
So really, that's the best way, going and sign that, and then telling them, taking that letter to our representative and letting them know this is a hot topic and we want it changed.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. You go to the website and fill it out, and that will, you know, a lot of it is sort of done already. But if they start seeing volumes of folks go to, you know, turn in these forms, hopefully the politician will listen to us and
If
do
there's
something
enough of
about
us,
it.
I guess you could say. So
Yeah.
it's fltortreform.gov, I want to say. It went away from us, but if you are, no, .com, fltortreform.com. There we go, for that petition. All right, well, you have anything else to tell us about insurance?
No, you guys do a great job. I'm just
About talking about insurance, we don't know anything about insurance.
Yeah.
honored to be here. That's right.
Well, thank you. We're honored you're here. You're like the 5th insurance agent. No, just kidding.
Right. Put down the list. He's not doing anything. He can come on the
He just
podcast.
works from home. He's not
Right.
doing anything. He's chilling.
First day he's
So-
dressed up in a year.
I know. I haven't
You look
put
good,
on
though.
in a while, so it's crazy.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. If we have any more, questions, I'm sure you'll be
Sure.
happy to answer them for
Come
us.
back anytime.
Yeah, all right.
Especially if Rebecca's
Watch
flashing
out.
everybody.
Thank you
mean-
for the shirt.
We'll ask you
I
all
need
the
a little
time.
shirt.
Just make sure you wear green every time you
Oh
show
my
up.
goodness, or light blue, which I know my daughter told me, so I should know better. But luckily, there was a sweater in the closet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Goodness.
thank you for this
Fiesta Media.
information. Yep. So we want to thank J&P Florida Handyman Services for being our sponsor, our continued sponsor. He does remodels, repairs, maintenance, and there's the information where you can reach out to Johan of J&P Florida Handyman Services.
Next, if you're looking to get into real estate and you're not sure where to start, you can join our team by emailing us at join@buysellrebell.com. We'll be happy to help you get started on your real estate journey.
And if you like to be social, you can be social and distant at Facebook, where you can find us on Buy-Sell Rebell, at Buy-Sell Rebell. And then we have Instagram, we have our fun TikTok videos. You don't want to miss out on those.
You can also find us on our blog at buysellrebell.com/blog to follow fun tips, information. I believe we'll have some of John's information up there by the end of the week, so you can find that. We'll also put that petition up there, and really please go sign so we're not replacing our roofs every 5 to 10 years.
All right, and we want to thank the Fiesta Media for this podcast production.
And this shirt.
Yep, you can contact the Fiesta Media. There was the number there, not fast enough for it. Contact them if you would like your own podcast. And we want to thank you again for joining us. And we're on Facebook Live every Monday at 2, and then also on YouTube, and soon to be Periscope. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you.
Great having you here.
Nice to have you here.
Bye.
If you put John back up, you can dance with us.